Cross up hard. Carr, step over. Carr, shot. Goal! 2-1 Nashville. And this is Justin Merrim going past Zusi. 3 up with him. Bobby Wood may well have won it. For Real Salt Lake. From Maxi Morales. Castellanos. It's crept in. He's the figurehead. He's the reference point by which all of New York City get in the final third. And the Arles board, Nishkoda, and Mora on the stroke of full time. Alexander Callens, and a breakthrough moment for the boys from the Bronx.
The journey began 9 months ago. Today, the marathon becomes a sprint. Win and your MLS Cup dreams stay alive. Lose and the offseason begins. In New Jersey, the leaves are changing and there's a chill in the air. Red Bull supporters know what that means. It's Audi 2022 MLS Cup Playoffs time. Their postseason history is, in a word, painful. FC Cincinnati, meanwhile, don't have any scar tissue just yet. This is their first dance. Later today, the Galaxy start their quest for number 6, while Nashville FC attempt to make sweet playoff music away from home. Here are the paths to the November 5th final and MLS Cup, and for one group of players, a confetti shower that chisels their name in history. By the way, you've got one last chance to make history yourself. Get your bracket challenge set today. New York Red Bulls, Cincinnati on Unimas2DN, as well as MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app coming up in, just about 36 minutes. LA Galaxy Nashville comes to you in the afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern, Univision, Unimas2DN, as well as MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. Welcome on into the AT&T 5G virtual studios. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Charlie Davies, Calen Carr, Matt Doyle. We are with you today for pregame, post-game, as well as a show in between both games on MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. Let's start to the two guys that have played in the playoffs before. Doyle, we'll step aside for the time being. Start with you, Calen. What does today mean to you? It's the most wonderful day of the year.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, I missed the playoffs once in 8 years, and it was the worst sitting back on this day and watching. And for today's teams, especially for the 5 seeds in Nashville and Cincinnati, they'll be looking to kind of start that momentum and try and think of a real deep run towards MLS Cup final. And in 2012, my Houston Dynamo team came in as the 5 seed. We started off strong that first game against Chicago, won 2-0, and rode it all the way against the number 1 seed. SKC beat them, BTC, go to MLS Cup. We won't talk about what happened there, but I would say if you're going to start this first day, being able to get off to a good start, especially leading into those 1 seeds with Philadelphia and LAFC waiting, you can come in with a lot of momentum.
I'm not going to lie. It's amazing. It's when you come alive. It's the fall. Let's go. Also had fond memories of that opening playoff match in that round in 2014, going to Columbus Crew and coming off with a bang. So it's exciting, and I can't wait to see these games today.
Goosebumps for these players, butterflies maybe, wall-to-wall coverage right here on MLSsoccer.com and the MLS app. You're watching the pregame show out of the New York Red Bulls Cincinnati match. We'll be there for postgame as well, take you through the highlights. David Goss is at Red Bull Arena for some interviews. We'll have him with Pat Noonan in just a little bit. We'll be there for the pregame show as well to lead you into LA Galaxy Nashville at 3 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, the wrap on day 1 after the final whistle from LA. Here is your full schedule here in the first round. We got 4 versus 5 seeds on Saturday to kick things off. We go to ABC and ESPN on Sunday. Austin, Salt Lake, Montreal, Orlando. Those are 2 against 7 seeds, but maybe Orlando and Salt Lake thinking about an upset there. And then on Monday to finish off the first round, New York City FC at Citi Field hosting Inter Miami, and FC Dallas hosting Minnesota United. It should be really, really fun. We start today at Red Bull Arena. Of course, go out to Carson after that. Look, I look back to last year, and I'm thinking about upsets, and 46% of those games, the lower seed won. In MLS Cup, we had 2 4 seeds, Doyle. There is chaos to be had here, and we'll get to our predictions later on in the show. What are you excited for? What gets you jacked up on the first day of the playoffs?
It's a lot of the stuff that Calen and Charlie talked about. It's that time of the year. But just looking ahead to the afternoon game today, we're going to have 2 MVP finalists going head-to-head in Hani Mukhtar and Chicharito. 23 goals and 11 assists for Hani, 18 goals and 2 assists for Chicharito. This time of year, we've seen it year after year. You need star power to win MLS Cup. You need a guy who can be the guy. And both the Galaxy and Nashville have that type of player. In fact, I would argue now that the Galaxy have 2 of those types of players with Ricky Puig. He's probably I wrote, Wiebe, in my playoff preview that Nashville's going to go into every single game knowing that they have the best player on the field in Hani Mukhtar. But that might not be true of this game, because since Ricky Puig has arrived, he has a strong argument that he's been the best player in the league. So with these 2 teams, they're both very good teams, but that star power is off the charts.
Yeah, Puig and Chicharito have been connecting. The interplay between those 2 has been beautiful. But Hani Mukhtar is the MVP.
He's a king,
this year.
man. He's a king.
And,
he's incredible.
And even when you look back at his past playoff performances, in 5 playoff performances, he has 4 goals. So even at this time of year, he seems to raise his level. I'm also looking at this first game coming in with Cincinnati coming in on fire. Tons of confidence, 5 goals last week. Yes, playing against DC United will help with that, but that's a nice playoff tune-up. They sort of had to fight on the last day to get into the playoffs. So I think coming in with a lot of momentum in that one against going on the road again to Red Bull Arena.
I was going to say, the Red Bulls, you in this game in Cincinnati, you have to be hyped for it. Are you kidding me? Red Bulls just throw the kitchen sink at you, high press, and we're looking at the starting 11 for Red Bulls right now. I don't see any surprises. I think the big omission is Christian Cáceres because of how instrumental he is in this midfield. Ball winning, being able to break lines with passes, plays without fear, and kind of sets the tone for this team. So without him, I feel like the edge is really favoring Cincinnati as a road team.
Injury for Christian Cáceres keeps him out of this one. A young midfield, Amaya and Edelman. There's a lot of pressure on them, Doyle, but I think there's probably even more pressure on those guys up top. Elias Manuel got his first 2 goals on decision day. This is the big question for the Red Bulls. Who can score the goals?
Yeah, it's a question that they have not answered in total this year. That they have gotten a really great contribution from Lewis Morgan. He's got, I think, 15 goals on the season, though it should be noted 6 of those came from the spot. But Manuel had a couple of goals on decision day. Omir Fernandez has had some good moments. Luquinhas came in hot but disappeared. The thing that's really interesting about this, though, is Gerhard Struber. He's going to tinker. He just has that in him. And the tinkering today is Andres Reyes at right back. Now, we're told this is a 4-2-3-1. We're told that Reyes, usually when you see Reyes, Long, and Nealis together, then those 3 guys means it's going to be a 3-4-3. But we're told it's a 4-2-3-1. And I think the point of having Reyes out there as a right back is to make it more difficult for Cincy to play over the top, because against the Red Bulls, that's how you beat the press. You play over it. By doing that, you create a little bit of dislocation between their midfield and their front line, and suddenly it gets even more ragged than the Red Bulls want it to be. Well, Reyes is so strong and so good in the air, he could present a problem for that FC Cincinnati plan, because we know we've seen all season how comfortable they are playing over the press.
FC Cincinnati, what a wonderful year for them. 3 spoons to start their MLS existence. You say it, everybody knows it. They changed it this year, Charlie. They made the playoffs. It might have taken until the final day, but they are here in their first dance, and they have an attacking trio in Brenner, Vasquez, and Acosta that's as good as this league has seen.
It really is. And, Acosta is a player who had 10 goals and 19 assists. He is the feeder for Brenner and Brennan Vasquez. Those 2 strikers can haunt any back line in Major League Soccer. So you're going to see Junior Moreno and Wiebe, who are kind of flanked out in front of Powell and Barriel. They're going to be more tucked central and protect the back 3 of Miazga, Cameron, and Hagland. Barriel is the left-sided player who you want to see get up and down. They're going to need him to provide service. He can be that X factor for this team, providing with. And Powell down the right side, he's more of a defensive right-sided player. He can open up. He's got the pace, but you're going to see him tuck in and protect Hagling more often than not. So I'm excited because I think it's going to be an occasion where they defend with Moreno, Wobodo, Barriel, Powell, and their back three, and then they let Acosta, Brenner, and Vasquez just run free and try and break that press and look in the transition game to get him behind.
And when they run free, you can see what they do here. Down at the bottom of the screen, 46 goals, 33 assists. Just for fun, we compared them to some MLS attacking trios of seasons past. You look, they outproduced Donovan, Keane, and Beckham in 2012. Sorry, Calen, we brought 2012 back here. It's inevitable, I guess. Also in 2012, those Shield winners, Wando, Gordon, and Steven Linhart, the Goonies, 50 goals, but not quite the assist men that this Cincinnati team has. All three of them finding ways to feed each other. And then, of course, 2017 Toronto, Jovinko, Altidore, Vasquez, 39 and 28. We do not have LAFC from 2019, but they were mostly fueled by one Carlos Vela, who, by the way, we'll see later on next Thursday in these playoffs. It's a time to take a closer look at those three, Doyle, because all year we've gotten to enjoy them. But I want people at home to truly understand what is clicking, what works with Brenner, Vasquez, and Lucho.
Well, I mean, everything works with these guys. We've seen them do it against every type of team. But what they're really good at is this. And you're seeing it against the Philadelphia Union. They just play over the top. And Vasquez is so good at finding pockets of space and bringing the ball down and then immediately linking these little 1 or 2 touch passes directly to Acosta. And then anytime the ball is on Acosta's foot, you're 1 touch away from having a chance. And they gave the Union hell with that. They gave the Red Bulls hell with that. They gave every pressing team that we've seen this year hell with that because they can just skip the midfield. And that's the whole point of the press, right? Pressing teams want to make it difficult for you to build from the back. Everybody in the world wants to build from the back these days. Pressing teams use that against you. Well, Cincinnati, they have their outlet to play over that. And that goes back to the Reyes thing. Situations like that clip that we just saw, Reyes is going to be on Brandon Vasquez's back, pushing him off the ball, pushing him out of the lane. It's going to be Vasquez's job to win that individual battle. And even if he's not able to link and create immediate chances, at least draw the foul. And he's been good at that as well. He's drawn a ton of fouls this year. And since he's very good at restarts, but just from the personnel that Gerhard Struber selected, you know exactly how he's thinking about this game and exactly what they want to stop.
The difficult part, though, is that Vasquez isn't just a hold-up player. He can play provider as well. And there are times where he dropped off last week. Some nice assists through to Brenner. The combination play between the two of them. Sometimes Lucho is a little bit higher and they're underneath. So they really have this real understanding they've developed over time and worked together. The 1-2 between Brenner and Vasquez last week was so nice to see. Yeah, but it will also come down to if Red Bull can stop Acosta, because to me, he's the one that turns it into a triangle. And you could say, okay, if you have Long, if you have Nealis, you'll take your chances one-on-one against Vasquez and Brenner. Still a tough ask, but if you bring in Acosta to the mix, that third man, that's where things can get difficult.
Big job for Amaya and Edelman, 2 young players in that Red Bull central midfield. We've talked a lot about it this season. It's impossible not to. I mean, I said it, you know it. FC Cincinnati has them 3 spoons. Finish last, finish last, finish last. We still don't know where they'll finish, but a 5 seed, an impressive turnaround. Pat Noonan, the manager, we'll hear from him in just a little bit, has done incredible work. And Chris Albright in the front office has changed the culture and made some absolutely massive moves for this team. Those moves resulted in 29 additional points year over year. That is the best in Major League Soccer in 2022. Austin FC, 2 seed out west. Right behind them, of course. These are those moves. Beninabuodo signed April 13th. They were sort of scuffling until they got a steal in the midfield. Sergio Santos coming over from the Union, sort of the brother club, given the manager and the front office they have. And then Matt Miazga, the big one, Charlie, a TAM signing on August 5th. This turnaround has been, I don't know if miraculous is the word, but it's darn
pretty
near
close to it.
Yeah, miraculous is the word, I think. Yeah.
I think I would say so. When they brought in Obina Wobodo, that is a central midfielder who covers so much ground. He wins the second balls. He's a tough tackler. He got all over the place, similar to a Tyler Adams in terms of how he gets around the pitch, and you can count on him. But then the real difference maker for them, because the back line had always been in shambles. Now, yes, you make it a little bit easier when you have a person who can win those, prevent the back line from getting isolated, but it was Matt Miazga. He comes in, 10 games started, only 1 loss, 4 wins, 5 draws, 24 goals for, 13 goals against. That was a big addition to that back line, because now you're bringing continuity. You're bringing a player who can play 1v1, who can win aerial challenges, and who's a little bit more consistent. And so now next to Jeff Cameron, you talk about experience. This team can now have that X factor to beat teams if they sit back and defend, because at times they're going to have to do that. The game's going to get a little bit ugly and dirty. You can rely on Matt Miazga now. He's had a ton of success in Major League Soccer, and that has been the big game changer with those 2 signings.
And a big moment for Miazga at Red Bull Arena. A goal and a 1-1 draw. These teams play 2 1-1 draws this season. There is going to have to be a difference between them today. We've got boots on the ground at Red Bull Arena. David Goss is checking in.
What a perfect way to start the Audi MLS Cup Playoffs. It is a gorgeous day here at Red Bull Arena. The sun is shining. I've already talked to some fans who drove 10 hours from Cincinnati just to get here for this game. It's going to be a special one. For the Red Bulls, the pressure is on. They know that this is an opportunity that cannot let waste against a first-time playoff opponent at home. And I think you see that pressure in the formation change, trying to get another attacker on the field, trying to create some goals that they know will be there against FC Cincinnati. On the Cincinnati side, of course, it is their first time here. I talked to some staff. The term house money was used, but it was not confirmed that they were playing with it, but they know they're ahead of schedule in this project, and they're excited. For Pat Noonan, he's been in the postseason 18 of the 19 years he's been a player or coach in this league. I talked to him a little bit more about trying to impart some wisdom on this side. Coach, you've been here a lot in your career, the MLS playoffs. This club has never been here before. A lot of these players have never been here before. What was the message? What's the focus in terms of stepping into this environment for this group?
The understanding of, what the week is going to look like in terms of preparation. We tried to, keep with our routine, and just in terms of messaging of what the game could look like, what the emotions might be like, early on, but try to find ways to, manage those early emotions and maybe the chaos that is the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game, and try to settle into the game in a way where we're level or ahead, and then we can, play with some comfort and some confidence against a team that we know will be very aggressive in how they get after the ball.
You've been very good against them, 1-1 both games. What's worked for you guys against Red Bull?
I think we've dealt well with the direct play at times, and understanding, the aerial duels, cover, second balls, and the importance of winning those moments. And then I think we've had a good balance of being able to find ways to move the ball on the ground and switch play and try to get behind a high back line at times. So we'll look for a lot of the same tonight.
I did say, though, only 1 goal in each game. You guys have been high scoring. How do you mentioned get behind that line. How do you get Brandon and Brenner and Lucho going in this one?
Well, I think they got to be up for the physical challenge that will be a back line that is athletic, that will get pressure to them, that will make them uncomfortable. So finding ways to create space so we can get them on the ball in pockets where they can turn and face goal. And when we can turn and face goal, be proactive in how we look to get in behind and go to goal.
Year 1, you make the playoffs. What would a playoff mean win for your project?
Probably as big as making the playoffs. I think every obstacle that you overcome making the playoffs, it brings more confidence to the group. So now if we go and win a playoff game, okay, we've done this, so what's the next step? But I think the group is ready.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right,
well, there you have it from Pat Noonan himself. As you guys know, I'm always the one who's got the cool in. I am here. This is now the coolest brunch spot in the New York area for at least the day. So I'm going to go sit with the cool kids in the VIP spot, and you guys enjoy working for the rest of the show.
Oh boy, mimosas at Red Bull Arena. It's a wonderful thing. The early start here on the first day of the Audi 2022 MLS Cup Playoffs, and there are nightmares for the Red Bulls. Doyle, in these playoff situations, it has never gone as planned. Even when they get to MLS Cup, they can't have
that
the
was not as
ultimate
planned.
prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we looking at today? Is there a chance? Tell the Red Bulls fans there's a chance, or do they know deep down inside that it's better to just be cautious?
Well, I'm not going to pick them to win MLS Cup or anything, but they are very good at generating chances off that press and turning the game into chaos. And they've done it against everybody, including against this FC Cincinnati team. And what it comes down to for this Red Bull side is, can they finish those chances? Like, they massively underperformed in front of goal this year. Now, they recently signed Elias Manuel, who had himself a day on decision day last week against Charlotte. He had himself 2 goals. Those are his first 2 goals in MLS, and he's starting today. I mentioned Lewis Morgan. I mentioned Luquinhas, Omar Fernandez. All those guys have had good moments this year. But what we've seen over the course of MLS history is that you need a guy. You need a guy who can just go out there and win you a game all by yourself. Calen knows this. He played with guys like that. Charlie knows this. He played with guys like that. Charlie was a guy like that for a good long time. You need a guy who can do that. The Red Bulls have never had that, or not recently. So they need someone to get hot, to step up, and to finish the chances that they're going to get, because we know that FC Cincinnati is much improved as they are with the additions of Nwobodo and Matt Miazga. They will still give up chances, and the Red Bulls will still generate them. It's just, can you put him in the back of the net?
You see here a trade, 1.2 million in GAM at the time. Big number, 14 goals, 4 assists this season, Charlie. We know he's the key man. I think I looked up the stat a couple days ago. It was 8 of the last 10 wins Lewis Morgan scored in. So when he scores, the odds go way, way up. They're going to advance. When you look at this game, you look at the tactical side, you look at the personnel. Is it a toss-up to you? Is it 50-50? Does it shift one way or the other? Who is truly the favorite? Red Bulls at home, their road record is actually better than their home record this year.
In my opinion, Cincinnati are the favorites in this match.
Wow.
on personnel. I think on the bigger picture, always the home side is typically the favorite. You feel more comfortable at home. The problem is when Red Bulls have played on the road, teams are trying to get the win. They're at home. They're playing forward. They're not sitting back and being cautious. Now, when you're playing in Red Bull Arena, now expect FC Cincinnati to drop in a little bit more, be disciplined, and then look to counter when they can, look to get in the attack when the opportunity presents itself. So I want to give a ton of credit to Pat Noonan when I look at the Cincinnati side, not because of the way they set up, but because of the way he was able to empower Brenner, to get him back into the team and to perform at such a high level, because Brenner was lost. This was a player that everyone said, send him back. Find a way to recoup your money in terms of not getting anywhere near what you were expecting. Now Brenner looks like he is the guy that you want to get the ball to. Coming off a hat trick in that last match, I think he's the X factor today.
18 goals. 18 goals for Ren Vasquez as well. That is the first time in MLS history, Doyle, that has ever happened. 2 teammates combining for that many goals on a season. But we've hit the trio here. We understand that. We've hit Nwobodo. We know how important he's going to be in central midfield. Miazga, Cameron, Haglund, yes. Who else can we look to potentially change this game on the Cincinnati side?
Roman Celentano, the rookie goalkeeper. He's had to be big all year long because, again, Cincinnati will give up chances, and you could probably count on one hand the number of rookies who have come in and started a playoff game in their first. Like, I cannot think of one off the top of my head, and I'm sure that I have watched more MLS than any human being alive. That's how rare it is to see a rookie start in the playoffs, and he's going to be tested. He's going to have himself a day.
All right, Roman Celentano, pressure is on Red Bulls. Pressure is on you to get in front of goal and actually make something of it, Calen. Who's going to be the difference maker if there is one, outside of Lewis Morgan?
Well, Luquinhas is always able to find a special moment in the match, but I really am looking a little bit behind them to those two center midfielders, to Edelman and Frankie Amaya. Edelman has been very good, just 19 years old, come through the New York Red Bulls 2 side and up to the first team, and has been really good. And Frankie Amaya, there's a bit of history in this one too. He was the #1 draft pick against for FC Cincinnati, was sold, really had to kind of fight his way out. It feels like that was, forever ago, but it shows how desperate things were for Cincinnati, that even their one positive at the time was trying to leave. So I always think it's a little bit interesting. I mentioned that game I played against Chicago, playing against a former team in the playoffs. There's a couple of those with Matt Miazga. So some interesting, I think, storylines underneath this one to watch those players, and maybe a little bit extra in this one for them.
All right, watering the field at Red Bull Arena, getting it nice and slick. This is going to be a game that has plenty of chaos in it. Both teams sort of want that. You heard that from Pat Noonan. We'll get to our brackets here in a second, because today, of course, is the first day of the Audi 2022 MLS Cup Playoffs, so it's all about predictions. If you haven't filled out your bracket challenge, you have until kickoff. That is 12:08 p.m. Eastern. Again, go do it right now. You're watching MLSsoccer.com or the MLS app or YouTube or Twitch. Go to MLSsoccer.com, fill out that bracket, some big-time prizes. Everybody, let's see, raise your hand here if you picked FC Cincinnati. If you picked an upset, quote-unquote, in this game. All right, we got 3 hands up, 1 hand down, Doyle. You picked the Red Bulls. Why?
I love watching FC Cincinnati, but teams that play open soccer and have questionable defensively tend not to do great in the playoffs, and especially so on the road. They'll make the type of mistakes that the Red Bulls feast on. So I think the Red Bulls will figure out a way to get 1 or 2 past Celentano, and I think in this game that'll be enough.
Oh, here's Doyle's bracket. What do we think? Calen, Charlie, anything questionable here? We got Chuck, mostly in the Eastern Conference, all the way. Looks like all the way to MLS Cup. In the West, Nashville today. Just to give you a little preamble to the 3 p.m. game over the Galaxy. You can't abide by that personally. Copa Tejas, like it, and then Philly as the champion. A lot of people pick Philly as the champion this year.
I don't mean it to be a spoiler alert, but Doyle and I, we didn't talk about this, but our brackets actually look very similar.
Simpatico. We see eye to eye, Caleb.
We've spent too much time together.
Oh, look at that.
That Monday Extra Time group, the mind meld is deep here. Yeah, Calen, wow. Okay,
we're on it. We both have a lot riding on this Nashville game.
What's the case for Cincinnati, Calen? Why do they get it done today?
Well, I like this team's firepower, and we talked about just when you get to the playoffs, who is the player that's going to step up and find the moment that matters. And I'd argue they've got 3 of them, and maybe to a little bit of a question mark on the New York Red Bulls side. So if the game, it's really about what type of game this is. If it's like the last 2 games that they've played, which I think Red Bull will be hoping for, where it's a lot tighter, scrappy, really more of a dogfight, 1-to-1, that's going to be more on the edge of Red Bull. If things open up, though, it's going FC Cincinnati, because if it goes end to end, you don't want to get out in the open field with Brenner and Vasquez and Acosta and let them find some joy. So I think there's probably a little bit too much on the FC Cincinnati side. And, I don't have them against Philadelphia going through, but I do think they could give them a game. That would be one I would circle if that does happen in the next round.
All right, 2 for 2 on the Union. Make it 2 for 3, because Charlie Davies is going with LAFC. What do you think, Charlie? Why LAFC? Why are they your champion?
3 home games until they lift the cup. And I think this Nashville LA Galaxy game is going to be a tough one. And whoever comes out of that, they're going to be recovering still from that match, where LAFC, I think this little break, an extra 3 days of rest, will give them the edge. And I think Gareth Bale is going to be buzzing. This is why you signed a Gareth Bale, to win Supportership, but to more importantly, to win the MLS Cup. And if you can win MLS Cup, this is all the signings, everything, all the things that went into this year, it's all worth it. And I think they are prepared, because in the Eastern Conference, I see Philly, Montreal going the distance, going to a penalty shootout, and that's going to be an epic Eastern Conference final.
Look at these Montreal fans. Look at these Montreal fans.
Let's go. Oh, yeah. Look, come on, man. This is basically not the last shot, but might be the last shot for this Montreal side. And I just couldn't disagree with my heart. Wanyama's probably not coming back. We know Georgie's not coming back. Probably Ismail Kone's gone. Come
The
on,
last
Miller,
run.
Alistair Johnson.
Wiebe,
Give
you
them the
got
chances.
Cincinnati in the conference final.
Oh, yeah,
though, I
man.
see.
Team Chaos. They're beating the Union. I have to differentiate. I'm trying to finish atop the bracket. All right. Wall-to-wall playoff coverage. We'll be back between these games. Join us. Enjoy the match, folks. I'll send you out to Phil Blacker and Matt Jackson